Hello, I'm Ace, and this is my guide for the new Battleground Blitz solo queue RBG bracket. In this guide, I will be going through the basics of Battleground Blitz, and in subsequent guides, I'll be going through each map individually with more advanced information. So this guide has 5 different steps. We're going to go through them each individually. So first, we're going to go through a setup with some add-ons that you need and how to set up your UI for Blitz. Then we're going to go through how the Blitz mechanics work, because they are a bit different from random battlegrounds and from 10v10 rated battlegrounds. Then we're going to go through the map mechanics for each map, and we're going to go through some strategies for each map, how to think in each of the maps and what you want to do, how to win. And in the end, we're going to go through some general advice of things to think about for the bracket as a whole. So I will be taking clips from my stream throughout this video to show some examples of what I'm talking about. So first of all, the add-on that you want to make sure that you always have downloaded if you want to play BG Blitz is the add-on that you see here on the screen. It's called BattleGroundEnemies, and it makes you able to see who is on the enemy team, and you're able to also click these frames to target the enemies. And whenever you do, their nameplate is going to show up on the screen so that you can see where the enemy players are. So here is an example of me targeting a player and seeing the nameplate from very far away. And also in BattleGroundEnemies, there's also a built-in DR tracker, like for diminishing returns in the game, which is basically, if you don't know about it, it's if you use a CC on a particular person, that CC will not, that category of CC will not be as long if you apply it a second time to the same person within a specific time frame. And you also always want to track this, which you can either do on BattleGroundEnemies, or you can install another add-on such as Diminish, which allows you to show the diminishing return on the targets, either on their target frame or on the nameplate next to them, however you choose to set it up. But these are more or less required add-ons for BG Blitz, and there are also some other more advanced add-ons that I will get into in a later guide. And now that aside, you also want to make sure that you have your UI set up in such a way so that you can have the map clearly zoomed out so you can see what's going on the map. I like to press M a lot to open up my map. Or you can also have a zone map that is constantly up on your screen. Maybe it would fit here, where you can always have the map open so that you're able to look at it, because the map is a very crucial part of BG Blitz. So that is essentially the most crucial part of your setup. And it goes a lot further than this. And on my stream, I have examples of the main add-ons that I use for BG Blitz. And I will also have them linked in the description if you want to check them out. So I'm just going to let this clip play in the background and explain some general information about BG Blitz and how it's different from random battlegrounds and 10v10. So BG Blitz is always 8 versus 8. There's always 2 healers on each team and 6 DPS or 5 DPS in one tank. And if there's one tank on one team, there will always be one tank on the other team. So in general, Blitz games are faster than normal 10v10 games in rated. And this is in the time duration. This is in how fast you get points in each of the map, how fast stacks accumulate on flag maps, for example, and also the rest timers are 15 seconds instead of 25. The way it works in random battlegrounds is that it's on a 30-second timer constantly cycling, but in Battleground Blitz, when you die, you have a 15-second rest timer, and every person has an individual rest timer. Like, no rest timer is shared as in normal unranked. Another thing that is different is the mount speed. The mount speed in Battleground Blitz is at 300% on base maps and 275% on the non-base maps, which means that running on a mount makes you a lot faster than in any other situation in the game where you're running on a ground mount. And this can be used a lot to go quickly between the objectives of the game. Other things that are different is bases work very differently. We're going to get into them more specifically later, but essentially, bases are faster to cap, and they're also faster to turn over to your faction. So the map we're looking at right now is Warsong Gulch, and here you just want to capture flags essentially to win. And the way it works is the first team to 3 caps wins, and if no team caps a flag, it's a draw. If one team caps a flag and then the other team also caps a flag, so the score is 1-1, then the team that capped the flag the latest in the game will win. So one important mechanic for flag maps is that when you hold a flag and the enemy also holds a flag, the flag carriers will accumulate stacks of a debuff called Focus Assault, and that debuff makes the flag carriers take 10% more damage per stack and receive 5% less healing per stack, which means that the longer you hold a flag, if the enemy is also holding a flag or has at least picked up a flag during the course of you holding the flag, it will be harder and harder to survive with the flag. So the way stacks work is they always start at 0 and they begin ticking up once both teams have picked at some point. And then stacks go up by, I think it's 1 stack per 30 seconds in Battleground Blitz. So what you generally want to do is to assign one person to pick up the flag. Maybe you choose a stealth class to go pick up the flag and then he switches it to your designated flag carrier. And then the game basically splits into an offense and a defense, where the offense team wants to kill the enemy flag carrier and the defense team wants to defend your flag carrier. So the way this map usually plays out is, as I said, one stealth class, for example, can go for the flag, or the designated flag carrier, which is usually like a mobile healer, can pick up the flag in the start. What usually happens in the very beginning is that both teams choose to stand in middle and team fight. You can go around this if you feel like you have a very weak team fight, but in general that's how it goes. What you want to do as soon as possible is pick up the flag, and once the enemy starts picking up your flag, you want to try to attack them as soon as possible, unless you're at that current time wiping them in the teamfight. So getting kills in this map is largely irrelevant. What you want to do is just kill the enemy flag carrier, protect your own flag carrier with a defense team and an offense team, and make sure you click the flag and return it so that you can cap the flag, because you can only cap the flag while the enemy is not holding the flag. What generally tends to happen is that the people carrying the flag are trying to kite away from the enemy DPS as much as possible to avoid taking damage and avoid dying. So what you generally want to have as flag carriers are mobile classes, and you want other classes to help them to slow the enemy DPS and maybe kill them. So in general, you want to have mobile classes that can do a lot of single target damage in your offense team, and you want classes that can't move as much, and maybe classes that have higher control in your defense. Also, healers on this map should pay attention to where the enemy DPS are, because there could be times where you would need to heal as 2 healers in defense, and there may be times where you want to send a healer offense as well, depending on where the enemy DPS go. So Warsong Gulch and also Twin Peaks are the only flag maps in the game, and they essentially work in the exact same way. However, if you are playing on Twin Peaks, you can utilize the height of the Alliance base to, for example, fly as classes that have like roll abilities like Monk or like a DH that has glide, and you can use that to kite, which can be very useful. So now we're going to look at a battle for Gilneas game, and in this map, you need to make sure that at least one person in your team captures the base that is closest to your graveyard. In this case, we're on the Horde side, so we need to cap Mines, one of us, and the rest of us, or most of us, are going to go to Waterworks. If you have good classes that can attack Lighthouse, maybe from stealth, that can also be a viable option if you also feel that your teamfight is weaker. So the way the bases work on this map and on every map is that capturing a base takes 4 seconds. And then it takes 30 seconds after you have captured the base for the base to turn over to your faction and start accumulating points. In other maps, such as Arathi Basin that we will get into, the bases uncap themselves after a while, but in Gilneas you don't have to worry about this mechanic. So in general, you want to have the one person that caps your own base, defend that base, and the rest of the people can do whatever is necessary. Like if that person that is defending needs help, one person from the teamfight, preferably a very fast class and very mobile class, can come help them. A lot of the time, especially for newer players, it might be more comfortable to focus on the team fight. But in the more advanced games, you're going to see more gameplay on the bases, on all of the bases. Inking, such as I'm doing right here, I'm going to Lighthouse to check if we can get it together with my evoker here. You might also want to try to teamfight first, and if it doesn't work out, then maybe send some people to ink the enemy base. It's also extremely important for the people in the teamfight to look if someone is leaving the teamfight, so that they can always make sure to follow them, so that you're not at a disadvantage on a point of the map where it's very crucial to not be in a 2v1 situation, for example. So essentially what you want to try to do is get 2 bases, which we have here. And then you just want to hold those as long as possible. It's really important to not leave people alone on bases that don't have trinkets, or leave people alone on bases if there are many in stealth or many people running around the map. That's why you should always be clicking your nameplates on your battleground enemies to figure out where the enemies, such as I'm doing right here. I'm clicking some people to see the nameplates and figure out where help is going to be needed. So once you have 2 bases, you just try to keep it for as long as possible. Try to have healers allocated to where the enemy DPS are, as I said before, and try to not leave people without trinkets alone on bases. So in terms of defending classes, the best defending classes are in general stealthers, or people with a lot of immunities, such as Bubble or Ice Block, or people classes that have pets, because then if they get inked, the people that ink them would need to CC both the player and the pet to cap the base. So there's a rough breakdown of how Battle for Gilneas works. The next map we're going to look at is Eye of the Storm. And Eye of the Storm works a little bit different from both 10v10 ranked and 15v15 unranked. So the way this works is that there's only 2 bases available at any given time, and the mid flag is also always available. So the first bases that become active when the game starts is Draenei Ruins and the Fell River Ruins. And you can see here that Draenei is open and Fell River is open, they're neutral. Mage Tower is yellow and Bloodleaf Tower is yellow, which means that they are locked. So what you want to do here is you always want to send 1 defender class to Fell River Ruins to cap it and defend it, and at least 1 person in mid, but most of the time a lot of people go mid for a teamfight there. What I'm doing here as a DH is I'm going to put pressure on Draenei Ruins because I'm a lot more effective out of the teamfight than inside the teamfight because of my class. So what I'm doing here is I'm just keeping the healer out of the fight so that we have a better chance to win the teamfight. So I'm actually trading myself for a healer, and since they only have 2 healers in the enemy team, that's highly impactful. So now what I'm doing is I'm just hitting him and slowing him if he ever tries to go mid, and the enemy druid start attacking me to help his priest, but he doesn't see that my druid is already capping the flag behind him, and now we have 2 bases. So whenever you get 2 bases on Eye of the Storm, you just want to hold them as long as possible. At this point, everyone in your team should leave mid, because mid is completely irrelevant. All you need to do is keep both of your bases and hold it for like 3 minutes, and then you win the game. So that's what we're doing now. We have a healer coming to Draenei Ruins to help us. And now we're just going to try to spin this base for the rest of the game and not allow them to cap it. And the enemy team picked up the flag, but we don't care about that at all. In fact, holding the flag for the enemy team is a disadvantage to them because the flag carrier starts taking more damage over time, just as in the other flag maps. The flag cap gives 250 points if you're holding 2 bases, and it gives 175 points if you're holding 1 base. You can only cap the flag at the base that your faction currently holds. But in this game, we don't really need the flag because we have the 2 bases and we're gonna win very quickly anyway. What you should do in this instance is you should attack the flag carrier because he takes increased damage, as I said, and it's gonna help you to sustain the base longer. What we can do in the end of this game, towards the end, is capping the flag with 2 bases gives 250 points. We can pick up the flag in the end and cap it when we have 1250 points to win the game instantly. So for now, I'm just making sure that we are fine on this base. And since we have 2 healers here, we should definitely be fine. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. What I start doing eventually is I notice that we're completely fine on the base and we have the situation under control, and I start moving towards the other base to make sure that they're also fine, even though they're 2 people that are getting inked by a hunter. So I'm running through mid, I'm picking up the flag on the side, because we are soon at 1250 points, and if we reach 1250 points, I'm going to cap the flag immediately so that we just win the game from the flag cap. So here is another game where we didn't end up getting a second base, but we got the flag from middle. So I see that we are about to run and cap this flag, so I start running towards Bloodleaf Tower, because whenever we cap a flag here, these bases that were active become inactive, and then Mage Tower and Bloodleaf Tower activates, and we need to fight for those instead. So I start running towards Bloodleaf Tower. I also make sure that someone is going to Mage Tower, so I look at my map and I see that my Rogue and my Boomy are close to it, and they can go for it. And I start running to Bloodleaf Tower. At this point in the game, you want to make sure that your healers are where the enemy DPS are. And a lot of the time, you want one of your healers on each base that is active. At this point in time, your priority is on the bases and not on middle. It's a lot more important to get a base than it is to get middle. So make sure that you get at least one base first. Now, if we skip ahead a little bit here, we can see that we capped one of the bases. We capped Blood Elf Tower. And now that we have Blood Elf Tower and the enemy team doesn't have any base at all, if we can just spin that base that is neutral for the rest of the game and hold our base, then we will win, and we can maybe even pick up a flag towards the end and cap the flag for 175 points to win the game instantly. Also, if you end up in a situation where the game lasts with a mid-team fight for a very long time, towards the end of the game, then you can hold the flag for an extended period of time to wait for the 175 points to cap and win, instead of resetting the bases and having to work for new ones. But in general, when the flag caps, running towards the new bases and slowing people towards the new bases is the best way to play, because getting two bases is basically a win by default situation. And even if you just get one and the other team gets none, you can just hold that for the rest of the game as well. So that is basically how you play Afterstorm. So the next map we're going to look at is Temple. And this map essentially works the same as in random battlegrounds or 10v10 rated battlegrounds. However, since mount speed is faster and the rest timer is shorter, it's actually a lot more valuable to pick up orbs because dying doesn't matter as much in normal 10v10 rated. So you can just pick up an orb, hold it for a while, die with it, run back and pick up the orb again. So in general, you want to pick up orb as much as possible. But if you're a healer, you generally want to try to avoid picking up orbs unless it's a situation where no one else in your team has a chance to pick up an orb and you really need an orb because you don't want to give away orbs. Or it's very late in the game and you just need a few more points to win. So people play this in different ways, but in the start, you generally... in a normal Temple, you usually don't pick up, but in Temple in Blitz, you can pick up in the start. Now, they had a healer pick up in the start here, which ended up being very problematic for them because the healer got one shot in the opener, and now their entire team starts dying as a consequence of that. What you always want to do in Temple is kill the enemy orb carriers before killing anything else, more or less, and also... you want to prioritize killing the orb carriers with the highest stacks first, because the longer you hold an orb, the more damage taken you take, percentage-wise. When holding an orb, you also deal more damage, but the damage you take while holding an orb is increased by a lot more than the damage done increased. Holding an orb also reduces your healing taken, and this ramps up the higher your stacks are. So after holding an orb for a while, you essentially become unhealable and very easy to kill. If you're holding an orb, you generally want to only kill people when you know that they just won't one-shot you because you're holding the orb. And also, a very good strategy can be to kite with the orb, kite the enemy DPS dealers so that you can hold the orb for longer and get more points. The orbs give you different amount of points depending on where you are on the map, and you get the most points by being down here in the middle of the map. You get a little bit less points by being up here, and you earn even less points by being around the middle of the map, which is like this outside area where I'm pointing on my minimap. So the points, I believe it's the same in 10v10 as in Blitz, and you get 5 points per tick in the very middle, and then around the middle in this zone you get 4 points per tick, and in the most outermost area you get 3 points per tick, and if you go to the starting zone you don't get any points at all. And if you hold 4 orbs for an extended period of time, I think it's 45 seconds, then the amount of points that you get doubles for your team. Which means that if you get 4 orbs and you hold it for 45 seconds and then go mid with the orbs, you can win the game very, very quickly, but this is very rare to happen in Blitz, especially since the death timers are so short. There's not too much strategy involved in these games overall in Temple, except you want to try to kill orb carriers first, pick orbs often, and try to survive as long as possible with the orbs. Killing enemy players also gives 10 points per kill, but those points generally don't do so much for the entirety of the game, so it's not really worth it to just farm kills. There's also power-ups on this map. I'm gonna point on my minimap now. So there's one Berserk buff here with a 2-minute respawn timer, one Berserk here with a 2-minute respawn timer, and behind each of the orbs, so here, 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 and here, there is a leaf buff, which restores HP and mana. And then there's also a shield here and a shield here, which gives 3 million absorb, and it has a 1 minute cooldown and a 45-second uptime. So Temple in Blitz is generally just working, pick up as many orbs as you can, focus on only killing orbs if you can't pick up an orb yourself, and focus the highest stacks first. And just keep running back on your fast mount and on your fast respawn timer. Spam pick and get points. And you can even stand in middle a lot of the time. Most of the time you should just stay in middle, because it doesn't matter so much if you die because of the Blitz mechanics. So that is basically how Temple of Kotmogu works. The next map I'm going to speak about is Silvershard Mines. And here you cap the carts by standing inside the circle near the cart. And the more people you have in from your team in the cart, the faster it ticks over to your side. And if there is enemy players in the same cart, then those will also work towards capping the carts in their direction. With the more people that you have in the cart, the faster it ticks towards your side. So whichever team has more players in the cart, that's the side it will tick towards. So what you basically want to do here is you want to send classes that are good in team fights in the lava cart, because it caps the fastest. And then you want to send 2 or maybe 3 classes that are good in a skirmish situation to the off cart. If you are on the alliance side, you want to tag top, which I did, and then run mid. And if you are on the horde side, you want to instantly run mid, tag it, and fight for it. Try to play on time to hold it as long as you can to just cap it. So right now we're just trying to CC the enemy players out, and we cap this cart as alliance. And now we're just going to try to hold it for as long as possible. What ended up happening here is that both teams started moving middle, because I believe that the lava cart was swapped to go up. And this is something that you can do if you think that you will not win a cart, for example. You can swap the direction of the cart on lava and on top to make it go a longer way, for it to take longer to cap. So on top of the cart capping towards your side, the more people you have in it, it's also the case that if one person dies inside of the cart, then that team of which the player died on will lose progress. So for example, this cart is an alliance cart, but if several alliance players die inside this cart, it's going to tick over to the horde, even if there are less horde players than alliance players in the cart, because dying makes the cart tick over. A few ticks for the other faction. So what you can do in the case where you know you will lose a cart is that you can try to leave it early. Here it was not exactly clear that we were going to lose the cart, but I started leaving as soon as possible anyway. Moving towards carts that we have to try to secure them. So for example, here I see that top seems completely fine. I don't need to go there because none of the enemy players can go to top before it caps. So I can just instantly start running towards lava. And I'm also constantly clicking nameplates to see where the enemy players are, to see if we're able to get the cart or not. So in general, what ends up happening is that you have one cart with a big team fight, which tends to be lava since it caps fastest. And then you have 2 to 3 people that are doing all of the other carts and trying to kill each other in one of the carts, and then maybe try to go for the cart that they're not fighting at. If you manage to kill the enemy, or if you know that you're not going to kill them, and just peel off and cap the other cart. What you can do a lot of the time, if you're, for example, defending a cart, is you can click all the nameplates on your BGE, check where the enemy players are, and then leave the cart before it's capped, because you know that it's going to be safe without you there. Because no one in the enemy team can be there before it caps. So in this situation, I'm clicking everything to see where they are. And I realize that no one can be here. I will probably start leaving this cart soon. So I see now that the rogue is coming towards me when I start leaving the cart. So I'm probably just going to go back to the cart and defend it to make sure that we get it. And I'm also trying to have my teammates come here and help me if they send more than one. So I can see that I have a warrior on the way. And it seems like they're just all team fighting out there. So basically, I love this map. Comes down to just counting the numbers, clicking the nameplates to check. Like now, I realize that everyone in their team is in the team fight. That means I can also go in the team fight, and I can ghost mid and top. And I don't have to be there. I can just go in the team fight and help them to make myself more useful. But if I see any of these players leaving the lava cart, or like going for the mid cart or the top cart, then I will follow that player and make sure that they don't get it. But as a slow teamfight class, like for example a Shadow Priest might stay in the teamfight indefinitely, because it can be very hard for them to move out of the teamfight. Also, if you start wiping in, for example, a lava cart, or you realize you're not going to get it, you might just peel off from the cart early to go for another cart and just give them the lava cart, slow them on the way, and go for a different one. And there are a lot more advanced strategies that you can do in this map, but for just a basic understanding of what you should do, it's that. And the biggest mistake that people do on this map in general is they stay in the cart until it caps in the very end, instead of leaving it early when nothing can actually come and steal the cart. So the next map we're looking at is Arathi Basin, and I will repeat how the bases work on this map because it's different from 10v10. The bases take 4 seconds to cap, and then it takes 30 seconds once the base is capped for the base to turn over to your faction. And then after it's turned over to your faction, you start gaining points from that base for 45 seconds. And after 45 seconds, the base uncaps itself, becomes untargetable for 5 seconds, and then neutral, so that either team can cap it again. So what you want to do here is you always want to send one player to cap the base that is nearest to your spawn point. In our case, it's farm, and in the Alliance case, it's stables. So they have to cap the base, and then they can either choose to defend it if someone is running towards it, or they can ghost it if no one from the enemy team is going there or can be there. So right now I'm going to GM to have like a 2v2 situation here, and on the other bases it's like a 2v2 or a 3v3. It's just important to never give a base for free. You should always contest all bases in the start. So right now I think we are in a 2v1 situation here on this base. We outnumber the enemy rogue here, so I'm just gonna try to cap this base while my druid is trying to get the other rogue out. So it appears there are actually 2 rogues. So we're just gonna have a little 2v2 here. And let me just skip ahead. So essentially we get a third guy helping us and we win this base. So now I'm just gonna instantly leave the base because farm is coming up in 2 seconds. So I start moving to farm because maybe it needs help. So basically after all of the bases have been contested in the start, you kind of just want to start moving towards whatever base is gonna become available next. That's why I moved to farm here, for example. I'm checking what is here, if we're able to get it or not. And then I just, for the rest of the game, basically, I just click nameplates, check where the enemy players are, and go to whatever base is a base that is becoming available, like LM here, for example, is becoming available. And I see that there's no one in the enemy team on the base, so I can just free cap it. And after I cap this base, I know that no one is here, and I can just start leaving the base instantly, because I also start clicking all the nameplates from the enemy team, and I see that everyone is already at a base far from LM. So I can just leave LM and let it cap on its own and just be more effective elsewhere. And this is something you need to do all the time. And a big mistake that almost every player does at some point. They just stay at a base where they don't have to be because it's not under threat in any way. So now I move to farm and try to help them get the base. But then I see that a healer is coming here. And when there's one healer on the base from either team, that base is essentially never gonna get capped. Because a healer can heal like 3 or 4 DPS at the same time a lot of the time. So we already managed to cap this base from some CC, I guess. I didn't even see that we capped it, so I meta to it because I wanted to cap it. But now I basically start running towards a different base because I know that we have someone at farm that can watch it, and I think that there's no enemy players that can be close to farm. And we just kept it, so it's completely fine. We can leave it. So now I just look what base is coming up next, and I start moving towards that base early. There can be a lot of times in this map where you don't have any specifically good place to be. I try to be LM here. I should have probably gone a bit earlier towards LM. But you just always gotta try to find where you can be the most effective at any given time. A lot of the time you can also just run around picking up power-ups like the cooldown reset or the stealth buff, to make yourself an anomaly on the map and be impactful through that if you have nowhere specific to be. In this case, I run up to Adam because I don't think I realized he capped it because he was alone. So then I just ran up to help him a little bit, but now I just leave the base instantly. I should have gone to GM quicker instead of going up LM because I just didn't see that LM was capped because I saw that they had a guy there and I thought he didn't get it. But now I'm just going to run to GM. I'm clicking nameplates to figure out if there's anyone from them there. Because if they cap GM at this point, I will not have time to get it back unless the guy defending it is like a bad defending class or doesn't have a trinket. But I realized that no one was there, so I can just go and cap it for free. And then I just run around doing this for the rest of the game, basically. Now I'm gonna check if anyone can be here. I'm gonna click all the nameplates. I see that both of the rogues are very far. I think that both of the druids are dead. So I can just run away from this base. I click all the nameplates. I make sure that no one is close to GM. And even though it's like a long time before it's gonna cap over, I can just leave it and be somewhere else on the map because it's completely safe when none of the enemy players are close to it. So if you're at a base where the enemy doesn't have trinket, or it's you're facing classes that aren't particularly good at spinning a base, then you can a lot of the time use CC to cap the base when they are there. Or, for example, we can see that farm is coming up here. If there was a guy at farm that is standing there before it becomes available, I might want to go to farm early to make sure that I can kill the guy before the base becomes available, and then cap the flag as soon as it becomes available again. And as I said, wherever there are healers, you basically have no chance of killing unless you have like all your DPS, like all 6 DPS, which you shouldn't have anyway because you need to have presence on other places of the map. So wherever there is a healer, it's most likely just an infinity base that is gonna be going on forever. So at that point, you can either choose to leave the base, or you can just, if you're a very slow class, like a teamfight class, you can just stand there and put pressure on the healer so that the healer can't leave it and go somewhere else, so that you force the healer to stay there at least. But basically, that's how you play it. It's all about like pre-moving to bases and defending bases from very far, and realizing when you need to leave a base because you have too many people in your own team at a base, and when you can actually kill and get a base. Or as in this case, we're able to defend it for the time. And now I see it's going to cap in 4 seconds, so I just start pre-living it, because it doesn't matter if he clicks it or not, he doesn't have time. And then we just win the game here. And that's how you play AB. And then for Deepwind Gorge, I don't have any footage from Deepwind Gorge, because these games that we played are war games, and you can't war game on Deepwind Gorge because it's actually bugged or something, that you actually can't queue it. But Deepwind Gorge is essentially exactly the same as AB, but the power-ups are in like a bit of a different spot, and the map is a lot larger in Deepwind. So what usually happens in Deepwind is that you cap the bases that are closest to your faction, and then you send some people mid to spin it, and the mid fight might be a spin fight for a very long time. And then what I used to usually do as a DH is I just choose either the top side or the bottom side of the map in Deepwind, and I spend all my time there to run between the top side bases or the bottom side bases, which is Ruins and Shrine or Quarry and Farm. And I only go mid if it's like a free cap where no one from my team or the enemy team is there, or maybe just one person from the enemy team is there. I might go there, but it depends on the flow of the game. It's all about clicking the nameplates and realizing where you can cap a base for free, or where you can 1v1 someone for a base, or maybe CC cap someone for a base. And if you're a class that is very slow, or if you're a healer, then you need to play a bit differently, because a teamfight, a class that is very slow should try to stay in the teamfight as much as possible, and just try to keep enemy healers to stay there so they can't roam around the map. And as a healer, you should always try to look where the enemy DPS are going, so that you can go where the enemy DPS are, and just heal that base and keep that base as much as possible. As a healer, you should rarely try to go and solo cap bases on your own, because it's more useful if you can stay on a base, heal it, and make sure that the enemy can never kill your people there and cap it. But Deepwind and AB, the bases work exactly the same, and the way you play it is mostly the same. It's just that the bases are so far from each other that you need to take it into account. So then for some general advice about the BG Blitz bracket, you should always try to click nameplates to have awareness of where the enemy people are, because you need to take that into account for your decision making. You should also press the map to check the objectives of the map, what's going on, and also to check where your team is, because that also matters for your own decision making. One of the biggest mistakes I see people do in Battleground Blitz is they think team fighting matters, and they think killing people matters and dying matters. A lot of the time, if you kill someone, I like to say that killing someone is just giving them a free port to the graveyard and a full drink. So it doesn't do very much, especially since the rest time is only 15 seconds. And if you die yourself, you just get a port to the graveyard. So a lot of the time it can be better to save your cooldown, save your defensive cooldown, save your trinket, and choose to die so that you can save those cooldowns for when you need them later in the game. Something to also take into account is that you need to figure out where your class can have the most impact. Like, I play mainly DH, for example, and DH has strength in mobility. It's really good at moving around the map, so I'm gonna put myself in a situation where I can move around quickly a lot and have impact through that. But some other classes have more impact standing in a teamfight, pumping out as much damage as they possibly can to maybe force 2 healers from the enemy team to stand there and heal their damage so that they can't be anywhere else on the map, which can also be very impactful. And I also get a lot of questions from people asking me what class or spec they should play in the game. And the thing is that the balancing right now in the game is like very, very good. So you can play literally any class and any spec and have massive impact. And the only time where your class or your spec is gonna hold you back from gaining more rating is literally when you're at the top 1% of the ladder. So you can climb to the top 1% of the ladder as any class and any spec. I would much rather play with a good player on a bad spec than a bad player on a good spec. Because the player's awareness and the player's skill on their class matters a lot more than the class they actually play. And then some other general advice is, since you are only 1 out of the 8 people in your team, you will lose a lot of games in this bracket, inevitably. You cannot carry all the games, even if you're the best player in the world. So you just gotta accept that you're gonna lose sometimes, and just try to analyze what you did wrong, what you could have done better, and try to implement that in your coming games. Don't get stuck on being angry that you lost games that you didn't lose because you played bad, it's because your team played bad. You can always do something better, so just trying to learn from that if you want to progress. And you can also try to find people in the matchmaking system that you enjoy playing with, that you think are good players. You maybe add them and you can duo queue with them, because you can also duo queue this bracket. And if you're interested in finding a duo partner, I also have a Discord channel, which I will link in the description, where I have a specific channel allocated to people looking for Blitz partners that you can use. And also, if you would like to get my UI and my add-ons and my weak auras and all my add-on profiles and all that stuff, it's all available in my Discord server as well for my Twitch subscribers. And if you have any more questions after this guide, you can just come to my stream, which is also linked in the description. Just come in there in the chat and ask any question. I'm very happy to answer your questions. So thank you all for watching. I will be making the more advanced map guide soon. And I wish you all good luck in Battleground Blitz.